I write tonight with a trembling soul, a quiet heart opening itself like a forgotten door. The moon sits above me like a witness, watching me return to the woman I once called home. This love letter is not made of ink alone. It is stitched from memories, woven from the soft threads of a life I still feel echoing in the quiet corners of my chest. My first wife, your name rises in me like a prayer I cannot refuse, a whispered truth I carry even when I pretend not to. You were the beginning of my story, a sunrise I thought would never fade. Tonight I write to you, as a man who knows the worth of what he lost, as a heart that learned too late, that some women are not eras, they are entire lifetimes. I still remember your first smile, how it felt like a small lantern, lit inside the dark rooms of my existence. Your voice was a soft river that washed the dust from my spirit. You were calm wind, warm sand, a silent blessing I never deserved. You were a tenderness that stayed, even when the world felt cold. This letter is my way of returning to you, without expecting a door to open, without demanding forgiveness, without rewriting the past, just to tell the truth my heart kept hidden. You were my first home, my first mirror, the first woman who taught me that love is both a sanctuary and a gentle kind of storm. If you ever read these words, know that they come from a place where regret sits beside devotion, where longing and gratitude hold each other like broken wings. I write to you tonight, not to ask for anything, but to honor everything. The days we lived, the dreams we shared, the wounds we carried. You were my first wife, and though life changed us, though distances grew between our steps, my heart still kneels before the memory of you. You are the chapter my soul never learned to close. I continue writing with a heart that still trembles when it remembers you. There are nights when the silence feels heavy, and it is your name that lifts it gently, as if your spirit still walks beside mine, in the unseen spaces where old love lives on. I wonder if you ever sit alone and feel the echo of what we once were, a quiet empire built on shared breath, on soft conversations whispered into pillows, on dreams we planted like fragile seeds, waiting for a season that never came. You were the woman who taught me how deep affection can travel, how love can grow even in a barren heart, how one touch can rewrite a lifetime of pain. My first wife, there are days when I feel you everywhere, in the morning light that falls through the window, in the scent of jasmine carried by wandering wind, in the softness of memories that refuse to fade into dust. I write this letter because there are truths too heavy for the mouth, truths that only ink can confess. I failed you in ways I still regret, not because I stopped loving you, but because I did not know how to protect what my soul cherished the most. You were not just a part of my life, you were the heartbeat of it. Even now, when I walk through the palace halls, there are moments I feel your presence, a gentle shadow following the rhythm of my steps, reminding me of the woman who once called me her world. Sometimes I close my eyes, and I can still feel your hands, steady, comforting, warm, a touch that understood my silence better than any words I could ever speak. If I could go back to the beginning, I would hold you closer, speak softer, love louder, and choose you again, without hesitation, without fear, without the mistakes that tore us apart. But life is a river that never returns. It only remembers its path, and my heart remembers you, the first woman who carved her name into the deepest part of my being. This letter is not a cry for forgiveness. It is a confession of gratitude for loving me when I was difficult to love, for seeing the man in me, even when I could not see him myself. You were my first wife, my first eternal memory, and the softness I still carry, even in my hardest moments. I write to you tonight because some feelings never die. They simply become quieter, gentler, more sacred, and my love for you lives in that sacred place. Tonight the wind shifts softly, as if it too remembers the way you once stood beside me, your veil dancing, your smile gentle, your presence, a calmness my heart had never known before. As I write these words, I feel the years folding back like fragile pages, revealing moments I thought I had forgotten, your laughter echoing in the courtyard, your footsteps whispering through the rooms, your eyes carrying stories. You never needed to speak aloud. You were a woman of quiet strength, the kind who held storms in her chest, yet offered only warmth to the world. How blessed I was, even in my ignorance, to have been loved by someone like you. There were nights when we stayed awake, talking about futures we wanted to build, futures that felt so real, so close, as if destiny itself had promised to keep us safe inside its embrace. But life is not always kind, and even love must face its shadows. If I could rewrite time, I would remove every distance that grew between our hearts. I would speak with more patience, listen with more devotion, and hold you like the most delicate truth ever entrusted to my hands. My first wife, you were the chapter of my life that shaped the man I became. You taught me loyalty, you taught me mercy, you taught me that love is not possession, it is presence, it is understanding, it is the willingness to stay, even when the world feels heavy. Sometimes I wonder if you still carry a piece of me, the way I still carry you, not as a wound, not as regret, but as a soft reminder of a time when love was young and everything seemed possible. I write this letter because silence can become a prison if we do not free our truths, and my truth is simple. You were my first love, my first woman, my first sanctuary. Even after everything changed, your memory remained untouched, a place my heart visits when it needs to breathe again. I hope wherever life has taken you, you found the gentleness you always offered me. I hope the world treats you kindly. I hope happiness finds you in ways I could not. And if you ever read these words, know that they are the most honest my heart has ever spoken. You were my beginning, and in many ways, you still are. I continue writing, and the night becomes quieter around me, as if the universe itself is leaning in to listen to the words I once buried in silence. My heart moves slowly, carefully, the way one handles a fragile memory, because every thought of you is something delicate, something sacred, something I do not ever wish to break again. You were the first woman who taught me the weight of promises, the depth of tenderness, the meaning of having a home, not in a place, but in a person. And you were that person for me, my shelter, my comfort, my quiet miracle. There are days when I walk through my life and everything feels complete, yet somehow unfinished. It is the kind of emptiness that only the memory of a first love can create, a familiar ache, not painful, but permanently present. I remember the softness of your voice when you called my name, the way you said it, as though you were calming storms inside me. I never admitted existed. You knew me in ways no one else ever has. Not because I revealed myself, but because your heart could read mine without effort. Tonight my pen feels like a bridge, connecting me to the woman my soul still bows to with respect. I do not write these words out of longing for what was, but out of honor for what you will always be to me. You were my first wife, yes, but you were also my first peace, my first prayer, my first lesson in how love can be both gentle and fierce at the same time. I sometimes wonder if destiny watches us and smiles at the way our lives unfolded, not as we imagined, not as we hoped, but in the quiet way that still leaves room for gratitude instead of bitterness. Because even if we walk into different tomorrows, the yesterday we shared remains untouchable, protected by the truth that we once loved with purity, with innocence, with hearts that had not yet learned the weight of loss. This letter is my way of keeping that truth alive, not for you to read, not for the world to see, but for my own soul to understand that some loves do not fade, even when their stories end. You were the first chapter, written in golden ink, the one time in my life when love felt simple, honest, and whole, and for that I will always be grateful. As I continue writing, I feel the past sit beside me, like an old friend I once tried to forget. It brings your laughter with it, your warmth, your gentle presence, things time tried to bury, but could never erase. My first wife, there was a time you were the sun of my world, the quiet heartbeat of every dream I dared to dream. You were the place where my soul rested, a sanctuary I didn't know how to protect, a blessing I never learned to hold the right way. I write this letter because there are truths I owe you, words I never said when your hands were still in mine, feelings I kept behind the walls of my pride, walls that kept you out, when your only intention was to walk in and love me. You were the first woman who ever reached the core of me, the first love that went so deep. It still echoes in the hollows of my chest. Your voice was a melody that softened every difficult day, a comfort I did not realize was holding me together. I remember your patience with me, how you never asked for anything grand, how you never demanded the world, only pieces of my honesty, little moments of attention, the simple promise that I would not let your heart feel alone. How easily I failed at the simplest things, the things that mattered the most. Sometimes I sit and imagine what life would have looked like if I had loved you with the maturity I have now, if I had held your hand with the certainty I finally learned.